Hi folks, Dave here. Just going to take you through how we work an online meeting, especially with relevance to using this with your pupils in your classes. Okay, so I've opened this up. This is actually me within the Teams app. Things might look slightly different if you open up in a web browser, but it's not going to be significantly different. The other thing I'm doing here is I'm actually using a team that we use for testing things out. And it's actually within Dundee schools rather than Globe, but that shouldn't make any big difference there. There's not an awful lot of difference there, apart from I'm able to put in lock channels and things. We would never use Microsoft Teams within Dundee schools, and I can see that at the top, Dundee City Council. There's my Dundee schools picture, so I can tell the difference between the two. We would never use Teams within that with children or young people. It has to be within Glow for safeguarding reasons. Okay, so two ways I can set up a meeting with a class. I can either go to my calendar and I can set it up within that. Okay, just by simply setting up a new meeting. Or I can just go back to the team. And what I could do, you'll notice here that I've created an online meeting channel. Now that's quite good practice to be able to do that within your class teams. The reason for that is within the general channel, the main page, I probably want to keep that quite clear. So within that, my settings, if I manage that channel, I can say that only owners can post messages, and that way that stops kids posting up nonsense and all their jokes and things like that. But if I have an online meeting channel here, which is a wee bit different, I'm not going to put that setting on, because if it's set to do that, only owners can post, then they won't be able to use the conversation function within the channel. So I'm going to go into this channel here, and you can see I've also got Meet Now. Now what I tend to find is I tend to put a post up there telling them that there will be a meeting at a certain point, when it's going to be, and then I just open up the meeting from there. The youngsters don't have this function within there, so they can't start a meeting. Okay, and they also can't put that into their calendars. But you can schedule a meeting. Previously, there was an issue where if you scheduled it within the calendar, the young people could join the meeting without you being there. A wee bit like having an empty classroom without the teacher. That function has now changed because there is the lobby, which we'll come back to in a wee moment. So you can kind of quite safely schedule a meeting now. But I'm just going to click on the Meet Now part here, and it's opening this up. Okay, so you'll be able to see me here in this there. It looks a wee bit different still within the web browser, although it's going to come in. Now, if I'm working from home, as I'm doing there just now, I probably want to make a wee bit of a change. I can blur my background, or I can change it to one of the settings that's in here. Okay, and I can add my own as well. Okay, you can be in your favourite place where you want to be on holiday or whatever, or you could have suppose you could have a picture of your classroom. Okay, so I'm going to leave that unblurred there. Let's just get rid of that there just now. It's going to ask me what I want. Room audio is really just if you're setting something up and you've got a room that's equipped for conference. Okay, most of the schools at the minute don't have that. That's something that we'll need to look at in the future. Okay, so I'm going to want the computer audio, and I'll turn that up fairly highly. Okay, and I can turn my video off if I want as well from here. I'm going to click join now. And eventually that should take us into the meeting. Okay. Now, I've not actually scheduled any meeting with anyone, so I'm just going to show you quickly one or two of the features. Okay, switch my camera off, my mic, my share content, come back to that in a wee second. Breakout Rooms, a brand new feature, which we'll come back to. Participants, now I can hide the participants, I can show them. Okay, so I can see that I'm the organizer, so I've got a lot more function than other people. And if my colleague Meg was to join me, she would join me as a presenter, but I could change her status. Okay, so I could always do that. Now, the other thing, when I click the little ellipsis up here, you'll see that I can manage permissions. So I could, I'll just come out of that there just now, actually. Okay, just going to take you into a browser. And I could, so I can change the permissions of the people who are in the meeting. If I've got another member of staff, I would probably want to give them presenter permissions as well. Don't allow attendees to unmute. Now, this is a new thing there. Basically, you can mute all the mics and you can prevent them from unmuting. So if you've got a class where there might be a wee bit of nonsense, that's a pretty useful feature. Okay, so the participants, you should also be able to get, now because we don't have anyone in the meeting here, I suspect that's why we're not being given the option, but if I've got a class of people there, I should have an option to be able to download the register. Okay, I have found in the past sometimes that doesn't happen, so sometimes I've scribbled it down, and that's another good reason why you should maybe have somebody else in the meeting with you. Okay, the conversation, sometimes people call that the chat. Now I can type a message in here and I can put in little emojis and GIFs and all that, GIFs, whatever you call them, all kinds of things into there. Okay, so you might find that there's youngsters who are saying, my mic's not working, it quite genuinely happens sometimes. Usually if you have an issue or a youngster has an issue, it is usually to do with the device that they're actually using rather than anything to do with the network or the software. 9 times out of 10, it's to do with the actual device that they've got. It might not be the most up-to-date version of the app or the software that they're actually using. So this can be quite a useful thing. You might have youngsters who are a wee bit shy, especially if there's quite a lot of people in the class and they don't want to take part. Okay, so remember I had said on my channel, and if I go back to my actual channel there, I had made my general channel, only staff, only owners were able to make any comments on that, but I'd left that function off on that page. That allows, you can see there's my hello has actually appeared underneath the thing there with that. So any of the conversation, I suppose we could even copy that and paste that for future reference or anything like that as well. Okay, so very useful to have it in a separate online meeting channel, the way that I've done there. Okay. So I'm just going to go back to that. So the hands up function, if I click on that, I erase that. Okay. When I'm looking at the gallery of all the attendees who are there, a little yellow box will appear around them, and I can see there that little number 1 as well, that hand has appeared next to my name. If I want to take that down, because as the teacher in charge of the conversation, I've asked you that, and I just simply click on the hand again and it lowers it. Okay, breakout rooms, we are not recommending that you use these with classes at the minute. Probably much more useful for staff function. You'll see when I click on it, how many rooms do I need? And it's going to give me quite a lot of options. How would I like to assign participants? Well, I might have worked it out in advance already, add participants individually to these, or assign them at random. Okay, if I am to do that, I would want a member of staff in every room, because it's like putting young people into an unattended classroom. So again, we don't know what's going to happen within there. So we need somebody, for safeguarding purposes to be available. When you do that, you need to make sure that that member of staff ideally is an owner of the team, but remember you can schedule a meeting without it being in a team. You would want them to have those presenting privileges that we're able to change in the participant settings. Okay, otherwise they have the same status as a pupil, so they can mute the mics and do all kind of thing there. Yes, I would be very careful with it. I could see its use perhaps with older classes in secondary schools, but you would certainly need other members of staff there to come in and assist you with it, and you would need to be a wee bit confident in its use. So in the main, I would avoid unless it's staff. The ellipsis here, again, another very important thing there. You have all kind of settings there. I can change, and you won't see it because we don't have anyone in on the meeting here. If I've got a large number of people, I might want to change that to a large gallery. The together mode is simply where you see people kind of sitting like in a lecture theatre. Change to full screen. I can change my background effects. Live captions I can turn on. And what should happen is underneath, it takes what I'm saying and it turns it into text. Sometimes with amusing results. Okay, not done it so far. You can see that has an obvious use with a lot of young people. So I'm just going to turn that off again there. My live captions. Okay, and I'm going to come back to this here. You'll see there it says start recording. Now that is a feature I can do in Dundee Schools. Remember, we are not using the Teams within Dundee Schools with pupils. Okay, we have only done that in a few exceptional circumstances, and it really is exceptional. For young people, it should be within Go. Okay, and that recording function isn't yet available. We're expecting that will become available in some form, not in the same way it works within this system, but there are implications as well for privacy about what happens to the recording. So there are whole loads of legal issues around about it there. So it might be when it does finally come that we do have to kind of get parental permissions and so on. So that should be shaded out at the minute when you use that within Glow. Now, let me come out of that there just now. The other big thing I wanted to show you here was the share options thing here. I can share my desktop, which is simply anything I'm doing on the desktop screen there. It's given me the option of several PowerPoints that I've used recently and several other things there. Things that I've got open on my desktop. I've got my email, I've got several web browsers and so on. I've also got now, this doesn't exist here within Glow at the minute, but this one does, Microsoft Whiteboard. By clicking on that, I should get a little whiteboard coming up eventually. Okay, and it's giving me options. Do I want to present or collaborate? Well, I just want to present because I'm not sure about the class that I've got. So I know that I'm not going to get any nonsense with that from the class that I have. So I could use this for putting things up there. We've got notes. Now you could perhaps see that the function here using notes as well. If I was to change that to other participants can edit, perhaps we could use those sticky notes for putting down their ideas, perhaps under some headings or something like that, and they can put that up there on the screen. Okay, but I would have to be pretty confident there with my class. I should be able to open that app as well using ones that I've prepared elsewhere, because Whiteboard is available in the Office 365 apps separately as well. You can see there it's giving me the option open an app. Okay, so I'm going to stop presenting there. Come back in all my glory. Okay, so we're back to, it would be the gallery view. So I think we've covered most of the things that appear up here. Remember the settings. Remember, we're going to avoid breakout rooms. Very handy thing, raise hand. Again, another handy thing, the conversation thing, but we need to have that enabled within the channel on the team so the conversation can come up here. Sharing the content, switching on and off my mic. Another thing I've got here, it says leave. Now, most people, when they want to leave the meeting, will just hit leave. But you're the organizer. What you need to do is you need to click this option. When I click end meeting, what's going to happen is I'm going to kick everyone out the meeting. Okay, so I'm going to say, thanks very much. Okay, we'll see you all again soon. Take care. We'll say our goodbyes and we'll all wave at each other as people do. And then I'm going to give them a wee moment and I'm going to click end meeting, and that will close the meeting. I don't want to, if I leave, I've gone out the room and the youngsters can still be there. Okay, I've admitted them earlier on through the lobby, and when anybody joins, okay, it says there are people waiting for you in the lobby, and I just click a little tick to say yes, they can come in. If it's an unknown person, I'm maybe not going to do that, because that shouldn't happen in Glow, because Glow is pretty well protected. But we shouldn't have any outside people coming in that we don't know who they are. But this will kick everyone out of the meeting. So I'm just going to end the meeting. Okay, and it will end it for everyone. There we go. And I'm actually recording you onto this PowerPoint here just now. So that, in a nutshell, folks, is how you use a meeting with a class with some of the latest things that are there, some of the do's and some of the don'ts. I think one other thing I would say to you just before we go, a lot of the youngsters don't really want to join because they're not entirely sure what to expect. In my experience, they tend to come in with their video off, which is perfectly okay. You can't insist on their video being switched on. That was done simply because at the request of the Directors of Education for Glow, so we can enable certain young people to be able to appear in video, but there's lots of good reasons why they might not want to appear. So it's not something you can insist on. I think the other thing you need to do is perhaps give them that wee bit of a reassurance about what they're going to do. Perhaps in a post on the team, be able to say, this is what you're going to do, this is what we're going to expect. I want you to perhaps have, be ready with your answers, and you can post up in the conversation if you want. Okay then, folks, I hope that has been useful. We will update this again when there's any further significant changes to how the meetings operate. Take care. Bye now.